Hello! Today I'm going to be making a video that has been pretty highly requested, which is to talk about septum stretching and in particular denting. So I'm going to cover what denting is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and if there is anything you can do to avoid it. So the first thing to know about septums is that they are pierced through a portion of the septum called the sweet spot, which is basically a very thin membrane called the septal membrane. And this makes it easier to get pierced, easier to heal, and generally it gives you the best placement for your septum. And of course this sweet spot is only so big, that's what makes it a spot as opposed to your entire septum. So as you stretch your septum larger and larger, you will eventually run out of that sweet spot in which to stretch. And once you run out of sweet spot to stretch into, you start running up against cartilage, which is where the denting process begins. So apologies because the diagram is way smaller than I thought it was going to be, but you can see that in pink is all the septum cartilage, and this tiny section here is your sweet spot, and that's what you're stretching in. And as you run out of sweet spot, you start hitting up against this cartilage. Now, cartilage is obviously not elastic, not stretchy, and so stretching into cartilage can be a very difficult and quite uncomfortable process. The same goes for if you're stretching conches, helixes, nostril piercings, things like that. It's going to be a lot more difficult than stretching lobes, lips, and like nipples and things, because the cartilage is very much not elastic in the same way. And now I'm going to show you my holes. Wow, look, it's my hole. This is my stretched septum. It is currently 7mm or 1 gauge, and as you can see, I'm definitely hitting my cartilage at this point. A little close up of my septum, as you can see there is no sweet spot left, it is just cartilage, and when I move my nostrils back you can really see that rubbing up against my skin. So denting will happen at a different stage for everyone, depending on where your septum was pierced, how big your sweet spot is naturally, things like that. So I started experiencing denting at around the 6 gauge mark, so about 4mm. That's when the stretching started to get a lot more slow and difficult and very uncomfortable. So some people start denting at 8 gauge, some people don't feel like they're denting until they're well into sort of 5mm, 6mm kind of area, so it is very much different for everyone. So there is no specific size where you will definitely start denting when you stretch to that size. So what is denting? Basically, it is when you hit your cartilage with jewellery, and over time the pressure and friction of that jewellery causes the cartilage to erode. Now this can sometimes be called necrosis, but that's quite a dramatic word for what it's actually doing. But yeah, your jewellery is slowly rubbing away that cartilage, which is why it is uncomfortable, and it's why it's a really freaking slow process. And that's the main reason why you need to be even more careful than normal and even slower than normal when you start that denting process when it comes to stretching. Because not only are you stretching the tissue, so stretching the front of your septum, but you're also causing damage to the back of your septum, and that takes a lot of time. If you rush the process, it's going to hurt a lot, and you're going to cause blowouts and issues with your septum in the long run. So yeah, at least 6 months between stretches once you start denting, preferably longer, but I'm not your dad. You're going to do what you want anyway. So yeah, in conclusion, if you have been stretching your septum for a while and you suddenly hit a size where it really, really fucking hurts, you've probably started denting. And that means the discomfort's going to last a lot longer than if it was just a normal stretch, where it's going to be uncomfortable for a couple of days and then it'll settle down. When it comes to denting, it'll suck for like a good couple of weeks, and there's nothing you can do about it, apart from give up, but don't do that.